So there's this scene in Fight Club, the movie, where Brad Pitt, and he's like, "You don't know where I've been, Lou."
Ahead on Frontiers, what it takes to tackle Alaska's most famous mountain race. This year, a big change.
Oh, I've been waiting for this for years.
Women get the prime time slot this year. We'll hear from seasoned racers about the big move to give them equal footing.
Alaska, where there are old triumphs, but also new frontiers, with challenges as great as the state itself, but a belief the best is yet to come, bringing you the faces, the places, and the spirit of the last frontier. This is Frontiers with Rhonda McBride.
Welcome to our program, in which we hope to get you caught up in the excitement of July 4th in Seward, where about 900 competitors will scramble their way up and down Mount Marathon. For each runner, no matter how many times that they've tackled the mountain, each race is a brand new frontier, something that Emily Carlson can personally attest to, and we'll talk to her about that later. But first, a big change in the race.
Yeah, Rhonda, the race has been around for 101 years, but for the first time in that history, the women will race in the prime time spot. Now, a long time ago, the argument for keeping the men last was that they were the real event, and if they raced first, the thousands of spectators who flocked to Seward each 4th of July would just leave and not watch the women. Well, it's safe to say that is no longer true, and some longtime women's racers say this move is decades in the making.
Mount Marathon, a looming giant for many, so much more than a pile of rocks, but a way of life, hard to escape. In the shadows of the summit that changed everything,
What can I make for you?
a champion brews a new course.
I didn't realize how exhausting making coffee would be. Did not have a clue.
These days you can find Cedar Bourgeois in her shop, slinging shots for anyone in need of a pick-me-up. But in 2010, she was a running phenom. At the top of the mountain, the Seward native was 2 minutes behind the leader, Olympian Holly Brooks. Cedar came back to win her 7th Mount Marathon in a row, the most consecutive wins in race history. But it came at a cost.
I thought, oh, no big deal. I can train and work 7 days a week and go for the record all in 1 year.
These days, Cedar is still busy,
I'm a little out of practice.
but she can't stay away from the place that defined her.
It used to take me 4 hours to get up the mountain, and then it took me 51 minutes.
The mountain not only transformed her body, but her soul.
Changed my whole approach at life. It applies to my business, how hard I work, the love I pour into it. It changed my mothering. It toughened me up so much.
It takes a certain mindset. Some might even say craziness to hurl your body down a very steep mountain littered with hazards. But these ladies gracefully dance, leap, almost fly. Adrenaline courses through their veins as they dodge rocks, dig in, and try to stay in control.
Whew. I was just thinking, I wonder if I shaved my legs.
It's that sense of humor, perhaps, that keeps Patty Fuldacker and Ellen Brown coming back. They won't tell you how old they are.
All right, I'm gonna geezer you.
But they will both admit they've raced this mountain 35 times.
So I ran it the first year and said I will never do that again. That was stupid.
It took a while for Patty to embrace the 4th of July tradition, but for Ellen, who signed up an hour before the 1982 race,
Right there in a sea of men.
it was love at first climb.
So interesting.
Back then, the competition was co-ed. 26 women went up the mountain. Ellen came in 10th. She beat 96 of those men. But not all of them were gracious.
So all the girls started cutting all the corners.
Patty says some of the guys refused to let her pass.
So that was, I think, when I first realized that, if we didn't have these slow guys in front of us, our times would be way quicker.
These days, the guys are more supportive. In fact, the same ones come back year after year to cheer them on.
They sing the same song every year.
There goes Ellen, la la la. la
Yeah, they call our names out in the song. She's got her red shorts on.
After more than 3 decades on the run.
Oh, I've been waiting for this for years.
The women say this year could be the best one of all. The year they stop pampering the men.
We loosen up all the scree for the downhill portion. And when the men get there, the scree's all ready. But now the men are going to loosen it up for us.
And perhaps prove the ladies are faster when they race last.
So I think there'll be more records broken this year.
When Ellen steps on the mountain, she transforms into a giddy teenager as she flies through a carefully choreographed dance. Everything else falls away.
You do feel like you're flying, and gravity is just your friend, and it's just so much fun.
For most, the allure of the mountain never goes away. Even those who retire can't truly quit.
This is a totally different kind of toughness. This is way harder.
They move on, yet another mountain to overcome.
All right, so what is the allure of putting your body through that punishment again and again? Well, for Cedar, it was watching her body transform. For Patty and Ellen, it's getting to the top of the mountain and looking down at what they've accomplished. And for me, Rhonda, at least right now, it's just surviving.
And of course, we want to know why you're punishing your body, but that's another matter. You know, they say that there's no teacher-like experience. So what did you learn the first time you ran? What will you apply this time?
I learned that I'm a little scared still of the downhill. I had practiced last year, but during the race, there's a lot of women on the mountain, and they were just zipping by me. They were really fast. So I'm going to be a little bit more relaxed this year, know that they're coming, and try to be faster on the downhill. That's my improvement.
And I know you were a little frustrated. You talked about just not having enough time to train as much as you'd like to. So how's that going to figure into things?
You know, I did what I could. I'm a working mama. I got a 2-year-old, and so my husband and I and Charlotte tried to get on the mountain as much as possible. Charlotte would scream, "Go, Mom, go," while I did intervals, and my husband would taunt me a little bit. "Come on, Carlson, you're gonna be last at that speed," all in good fun. But I did what I could.
So you got the yin and the yang
Yeah,
of the training. But are you excited that you have a chance to be a part of a historic race, the women's race, getting the primetime spot?
Yep, it's gonna be great. I'm super excited.
All righty. Well, we want to thank you very much, Emily, for joining us. Oh, one thing I forgot, though. I almost forgot. We got to do this, is we've got to show people a little bit about your past. I don't think a lot of people know that you have figure skating in your past.
This VHS is so old. This is 16 years ago. I think I was 17 here. This is from the archives. Yeah, you know, it's different. It's jumping versus going down a mountain, but a lot of the same skills are there. You're an athlete, you know how to train. It's hard work, it's dedication, it's commitment to something. And above all else, at the end of the day, it's like, just suck it up. You gotta do it, you gotta perform on the day. And so that's what's gonna happen on the 4th of July. It may not be pretty.
Well, we're all rooting for you. We're not gonna be like your husband. All right, thanks, Emily. Well, now that we have stoked your appetite for Mount Marathon, are you ready to hear from Holly Brooks, a 2-time champ, and Clint McCool with 17 races under his belt? Their take on who and what to watch up next.
I just want cremation.
Cremation specialist in Alaska.
Can I have a service before cremation?
Our staff is committed to serving your needs.
I just want something basic. The simpler, the better.
Specializing in simple cremations. Whatever your reasons are for choosing cremation, call Cremation Society of Alaska 277-2777 or in the Valley 373-8627 and on the web at alaskacremation.com.
The Alaska Native Tribal Health Consortium provides comprehensive health services for Alaska Native and American Indian people across our state. In addition to world-class care at the Alaska Native Medical Center, our work delivers health services for rural Alaska. From cutting-edge technology for the best care possible, to modern construction of clean water systems and health clinics, to health training and outreach that honors our culture, our vision is that Alaska Native people are the healthiest people in the world.
Okay, people, you know the drill. Well, sometimes you gotta give and not receive. Sometimes you gotta live what you believe, open your arms, 'cause that's where it starts, right here with you and with me. Generosity, pass it on. A message from the Foundation for a Better Life.
Football games never break out at the office. Hockey games either. Turns out covering sports in Alaska is not for the weak of heart or back. Reading highlights from sports feeds, easy. Getting the words out at 45 below, try it sometime. Dave Goldman goes the distance for every Alaska sports fan. Like him, KTVA 11 Sports and Dave Goldman. Be there.
Mount Marathon is only about 3 miles, but it's a race filled with adrenaline, exhaustion, pain, and joy. And our two guests have experienced all of those emotions. Clint McCool has run the race 17 times. Holly Brooks, a 2-time champ, also an Olympic cross-country skier. And both Holly and Clint will be helping Dave Goldman with our coverage on Monday, making the calls. How exciting. So, Holly, I know for a long time you've wanted to see the women get equal footing with the men.
Yeah, I mean, this is exciting. First time in history. I mean, this is the 89th running of the race, and this is the first time that the women are shown on TV. They'll have live coverage, and I'm really excited to call the shots. This is an acknowledgement of their hard work, their sacrifice, and the fact that the women are out there working just as hard as their male counterparts.
And I wonder, why it's taken so long for them to get that recognition.
That's a good question.
We saw it with basketball, women's basketball.
That's a good question. It's 2016. I'm not quite sure why it's taken this long. The only thing is I'm happy that we're here. I'm happy that we can share the women's stories. I'll tell you from experience, I've talked to a lot of these competitors and they're excited to be on TV. They're excited that people in Anchorage can sit on their couch and watch them just race their hearts out.
And one of the things last year we saw in the women's race, it was a new record. Emily Forsberg set that. Now, she's not coming back this year.
Yeah, unfortunately, we'll miss Emily. She's out with a knee injury. She blew her knee, her ACL, in a ski mountaineering accident. And I'm sure she wishes she could compete too. But we will have another international star in the form of Ingvild Kaspersen from Norway. So I expect big things from her.
Well, let's talk a little bit about Ingvild. Why do you think that she might steal the show this year?
She is pretty new to the scene. She burst onto the international mountain running scene pretty much just a year ago. She is young, she is 21, and I had the pleasure of actually going out to dinner with her yesterday straight off the plane. She took the over-the-pole flight from Frankfurt, and what's really interesting about Ingvild is she's a former soccer player, but last year in a race called the Rut, it's a mountain running race in Montana, she actually beat Emily. And so, I think that we're gonna see a wonderful race from her, and maybe she'll even beat Emily's record. I don't know.
What do you think, Clint?
I think actually you have to look at Ingvild as just an amazing contender for this year's race. She's coming off of a huge victory at a sky running championship called Zagama in Spain. It's a marathon length run with, I think, about 17 or 18,000 vertical feet, and she won it handily. And this was just a few weeks ago. Killian was the men's winner, by the way.
And Killian, of course, took the race by the storm as well last year. He's not coming back either.
No, he's focusing on his speed attempt up Mount Everest.
But what did he bring to the race?
Well, he's the #1 mountain runner in the world, and he brought in a whole new class and a performance that we've never seen before. He's the most natural downhill runner I've ever seen, and he blew the record away. handily, and he could have done even faster had he been pushed. But it's just bringing in another level of competitor, and there's going to be a couple of contenders. We have a couple of international racers this year, and we have
Ingvild being one of them.
Ingvild being one of them, but in the men's race there are a couple of international quality runners, and we also have a couple of local dark horses that I think could play into the equation. It's going to be exciting.
Well, we'll talk about some of the contenders in the men's race later, but one of the things that I wanted to ask you about is the women's race and the change in that. How do you feel about that?
Oh, I'm thrilled. I mean, I think it's something that's long overdue. It's something that has actually been presented a number of times, and finally we were successful. And I think it's great because the women put on a great race, and what we saw Emily do last year was in many ways more impressive than even what we saw Killian do in the men's race. Her performance was just amazing. And I'm really, really psyched to see the women get the coverage that they're due. They've trained just as hard as we do, and I think it's going to be a very exciting race.
What differences do you think it's going to make, in the actual competition? Does time slot really matter, other than exposure?
There are some women that are kind of complaining, like, I don't know about this equality thing, Now we have to wait until the afternoon, and we have that much more time to get our nerves and our anxiety, and, what do I eat? When do I eat it? But I think it's great. They're really excited to show what they have. And, I spoke with Denali Strabel last night, and while many women are kind of lamenting the later time slot, she made the point that the women, we usually break the course in for the men. When we get to the shale, it's raw and it's hard, and this year it'll be soft and light, and the men will get to cheer the women on after their race and support us at the finish line, and I think the women are looking forward to that, and we'll see some fast times because of that.
Well, one of the things, is we've seen the men's race televised, but not the women's before. What is it that we can now have expanded horizons about when we watch the women and get to compare the two?
Well, I think it provides a great opportunity again to see the women run, but also, there is differences between running earlier and later in the day. As Holly mentioned, I mean, the men will be breaking the trail up for the women, which is going to, I think, possibly create an even faster downhill environment for them. On the other hand, they have to sit and wait all day and deal with the nerves that come along with that. And later in the day, typically, is hotter.
But as a spectator, what are we going to gain by being able to watch two different ways of, as you call it, dancing with the mountain, your phrase for how you tackle the race?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that it just gives you an opportunity to have that gender equality and to really see that the women are out there and they're working just as hard as the men, and that they're going to put on a great race and a competition for us. And the idea that since it's going to switch back and forth every year, it's not like it's changing permanently. So next year, the guys are going to have to sit and wait all day. But this year, we're going to be out there in force. We're going to, if I wasn't going to be in the control booth, I would be at the halfway point with most of the other top men racers are going to be at the halfway point. We've all committed to it, and there's going to be tremendous support for the women. I already know lots of people that are heading up there with lawn chairs and sleeping bags if they have to, and there's even a rumor of a keg. So we'll see what happens on race day, but they're going to have lots and lots of support from the men.
And that's great.
I would just say the fact that the women are going to be on TV has bigger repercussions, and that women sitting at home and young girls are going to see, potential role models out there, and they're going to watch the race and they're going to say, hey, maybe that's something that I can do. So I think it'll have long-term development advantages for Alaskan running and for women's sports overall.
And speaking of women that have been inspired, young women, by this race, Ali Ostrander, she's not running this year, but maybe for a good reason, perhaps.
Ali is, of course, a crowd favorite, and, the competition and the spectators and everyone will miss her, but she'll be back. Ali was invited, or she qualified for the Olympic trials for Rio. And so while Mount Marathon is the Olympics of Alaska, Rio is the Olympics of the world. And so Ali will be the only collegiate racer in a field of 24 women who have qualified to run the 5,000 in Rio. So she'll be back.
And wow, look at her go. Now, who else do we watch for in the women's race?
Beyond Ingvild, you have to certainly be watching Christy Marvin. We've had 4 mountain races so far this year, and Christy's won all 4 of them. And she has, I believe she's broken the record in 3 out of the 4. So she's in just top shape. And I think she's going to be our best chance at
Alaska's best
chance at giving Ingvild a real run for her money. There are some other women as well that are super strong, but there's also a couple that are struggling with some injuries, and it's going to be a little tougher for them. If Allie was here, I think she could really give Ingvild a run for her money. But she is doing, Allie will be back. She'll be back for several more years to come, and she's going to have other chances.
So who are we going to watch in the men's side of the race?
In the men's side of the race, it's going to be very interesting. We do have Ricky Gates coming back. He's a world-class runner. He's had 3 second-place finishes here, so he knows what he's doing. He knows the mountain. I talked to him personally, and he says he's ready. Beyond him, you have we have Nick Elson coming from Canada, who was 5th place last year. You can never rule out Eric Strabel. This is
now he's won it probably the most.
Yeah, right? of anybody in contention right now. And he's super experienced. He's got an amazing downhill, and so you certainly can never rule him out. And beyond that, there's a couple of new guys, though, that are going to make things very interesting. When I say new, I mean new to Mount Marathon. They're rookies, but they're both APU skiers, Scott Patterson and David Norris.
My former teammates.
Some of the people that Holly knows really well. And so far this summer, they have dominated the racing series. Between them, they've got 3 out of the 4 victories, and they broke the record in a couple of those races. So they're young, they're strong, they've got big legs and big lungs, and they're going to push the pace to the top.
What's really exciting is those 2 guys have been up the mountain maybe twice in their life. Through the other races this year, they've proven that they have, like Clint said, the legs and the lungs, and I think that they'll work together to really push the pace uphill. Who knows what they have on the downhill? I don't think they even know.
Well, it sounds like the Iditarod, where you're always balancing experience versus, the muscle power of the dogs or the muscle power of the body. Dave Goldman, our sports director, has said he sees Mount Marathon following in the footsteps of the Iditarod, becoming even more of a worldwide event.
I believe we're certainly gaining more and more recognition of the race every year. We're attracting some of the best in the world. Ingvild right now is arguably on top, and we're going to get to see her run, and I'm super excited about it. And I think we are becoming more of a recognized event, and people are finally saying this is a little short race. It's a 5K, but it's one of the toughest 5Ks you're ever going to run. And I think we're seeing that. We have people that are going to travel halfway around the world that are professionals coming to do this race, and there's not even any prize money for this. They're coming here because they've heard about this Alaskan race that they want to participate in. And the exposure that we've gotten over the last couple of years by the international runners coming, especially with Emily and Killian, is spreading. After last year's race, between those 2 and their followers, they had tens of thousands of people watch that race just because they're followers of these world-class runners.
Well, that's exciting. It brings much more attention to Alaska and visitors, hopefully, too. So we want to thank both of you, Clint McCool and Holly Brooks, and we will be continuing our conversation on the web and on Facebook, so you want to check the web for that. And still ahead, another Mount Marathon tradition, something called the Victory Dance. We'll take you to the foot of Mount Marathon for some pretty entertaining moments from last year's race.
Every day something's different, and I get really excited to report on stories in Alaska. I cover these stories. I need to be out there. I need to be experiencing all this stuff. I need to know. And Alaska is so big that you really have to get out there, because I think it's really important to meet people and cover their communities. There's just so many stories here that I could do a story for every day for the rest of my life and still have something new to tell in Alaska.
This 4th of July, we can all enjoy family, friends, and the beautiful scenery that Alaska has to offer and be safe.
Do not use fireworks within the municipality of Anchorage.
It's illegal, and you could face a criminal fine of $300 or even worse, cause a devastating wildfire in our city.
If you see individuals illegally using fireworks, please call the Police Dispatch Non-Emergency Line at 786-8500.
This message is sponsored by your Anchorage Fire and Police Departments.
One caring foster parent
can make the difference
between a good life
and a not so good life
for a child.
What does it take?
The willingness to be there.
The willingness to care.
The willingness
to open your heart
and your home
for one child.
One child.
One child.
Me.
Will you be the difference for one child? Call today, 1-800-478-7307.
Mike's Big Brother is listening. Cameras.
Big Brother is watching.
Action.
It's not summer without Big Brother.
This summer, Big Brother is your all-inclusive.
I'm in this house with 15 new people. Holy moly.
Fun-filled. I love it, I need it, I gotta have it. Vacation destination.
We're about to be rocking this house like a hurricane.
Julie Chen hosts.
You're in for one crazy trip.
Aloha.
Don't miss an all-new Big Brother. CBS tonight.
Next week on Frontiers, why in the Yupik language the word for fish, naka, and the word for food are one and the same. We take you to the Kuskokwim River to celebrate the return of the kings. Finally, after several seasons of sacrifice with severe limits on subsistence, the fish racks are now full of kings.
Whenever they say they catch lots of fish, we pray. We thank our Creator for giving us food.
The king run is not as strong as biologists would like to see, but for the first time in years, families on the Kuskokwim have been able to put up enough fish for winter. Also in next week's show, the new Intertribal Fisheries Commission on the Kuskokwim, another layer of management or a better way to protect the fish while meeting the needs of the people. Finally, come Monday, July 4th, the best vantage point to watch Mount Marathon, maybe right here on KTVA. We'll have about a dozen cameras up on the mountain. Coverage of the men's race starts at 10:30 in the morning. Then in the afternoon, we'll bring you the women's race at 2. You can watch on KTVA Channel 11 and GCI Cable Channel 1. The race will also be live streamed on KTVA.com. Mount Marathon, well, we hope that we have given you an appreciation of this uniquely Alaskan adventure. From all of us at KTVA, have a safe and happy Independence Day. We leave you now with the sights and sounds of Victory Rock from last year, just before the racers hit Main Street in Seward. Victory in the wide open frontier of mountain racing. We'll see you next week.